Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are, yes, once again it has to be said, it is a Saturday night, it is Manx Radio, which means it is time for Jumpin' In, best in modern and contemporary jazz from around the planet, with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's show, and indeed the start of the downhill slope to winter, as the evenings are now drawing in, as the longest day was last Thursday. Not sure when the warmest day was, months ago, no doubt, although there'll be some of you who'll say we never actually left winter this year. I'm sure we can still warm your cockles should they need warming, with an hour or so of the hottest jazz around. So H, what's been keeping you on the boil this week other than your unquenchable thirst for tea, and what has taken a daring dunk without falling off and ending up as bits at the bottom of your mug?
Well, I would have to say we missed a bit of a recent birthday from, sadly no longer with us, but a great modern jazz great. Speaking of modern jazz greats, I picked up on recently of Miles' last concert, which is, it's not everyone's bag, but, you know, he was still going till the end, as they say. And a new one from Wolfgang Hafner.
And from me, we say ta-ra, we use the force, we can't remember the words, and to start, well, perhaps we'll need to join the good folk at Bletchley Park. Here's Code Breaking from the Orchestre National de Jazz de Montréal. Obviously live and obviously appreciated, and why not indeed, Christian Jensen and the Montreal Jazz Orchestra with Code Breaking, taken from their 2022 album Equal Equals Sign Orchestra. Back in 2019, Petra Kankura, who programs the Ottawa Jazz Festival, asked Christine if she'd lead an all-women big band for the festival. It was the germ of an idea, as the saxophonist, composer and band leader Christine, probably the best known in Canada, as a leader of a large ensemble, had worked with an all-female ensembles before, including working with her sister, Ingrid, the trumpeter, and Ingrid herself features with the supergroup Artemis, all-female. However, Christine countered that she would instead offer up a gender-equal band with equal numbers of men and women in the band, and also an equal split of the lead seats. The result was just, despite a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic, the band recorded the project Equal Equals Orchestra, and it was finally performed live in 2021, with the concert recording coming out a year later. And as you just heard, the results are well worth the wait. There are quite a number of recordings of the Montreal Jazz Orchestra under Christine's direction. I'd love to catch them live. And in fact, the Montreal Jazz Festival itself is on next week. If you're in the vicinity, you could catch Christine with her quintet a number of times. You could also catch our nephew Sam and his band Toucan, who are appearing 3 times over the course of the festival.
Very nice indeed. Yeah, great way to get going. It is Jumpin In with Chris and myself, H. And a birthday. We've just missed a birthday, actually, for one of the great characters of modern jazz. Sadly, just left us a year or so back. Chick Corea. It was such a shame. He felt like he still had so much to offer, and tragically was taken from us very rapidly after being diagnosed with, I think, with a fairly rare cancer. An awful lot of music happily to go out and enjoy in all sorts of different genres: solo, big bands, duos, sort of jazz rock, progressive, quite poppy stuff, quite commercially sounding stuff, lots of Spanish tinged stuff, and some third stream stuff like this one I always remember from back in the day when it came out, Lyric Suite for Sextet. And let's hear the opening overture. still sounds good to my ears now, and pretty fresh, it has to be said, despite being over 40 years, oh my lord, since it was recorded. And I can remember it actually coming out. I can remember listening to Jazz on 3, as it was then, with the late, great Charles Fox talking about it. And he'd basically spend almost an entire programme just sort of talking about one album, talking about the music, and playing 2, 3, maybe 4 tracks, certainly, if not in their entirety, quite long sections from them all, and talking about this whole concept of third stream, which has been going in jazz for almost as long as you can remember, this mixture of jazz and the classical format and melding it together. Still goes on very successfully now, and we feature it from time to time. Not an easy thing to do necessarily, and there bringing in the sort of the string, or as you heard, the lyric suite for sextet. So Chick Corea on piano, Gary Burton, of course, the brilliant vibraharp player, and then Ikvan Bo on the first violin, Carol Sheave on second violin, Karen Dreyfus on viola, Fred Sherry on the cello, and that was just the overture. And, well, Chick himself, as I say, sadly no longer with us. We lost him, I think, in 2021, if memory serves correct. Still really, I think, playing incredibly well at the top of his powers, and still touring quite widely. Originally came from Southern Italian descent, and started out at a very young age with his dad at 4. Also, he started out playing a bit of Dixie in the early days, and drums, and up to his latter years he would often jump onto the drum set, if I can say it, and was actually a very good drummer, although best known, of course, for all those years, and particularly starting out with Miles Davis, along with Herbie maybe, and Keith Jarrett perhaps. Must be one of the most influential, maybe McCoy Tyner, one of the most influential pianists, I think, of the early part of the 20th and 21st centuries. Wonderful stuff, sadly missed, but great stuff.
And as you say, a huge recorded legacy. Of course, Return to Forever, one of the great jazz rock supergroups with Al Di Meola early on, and a lot of Chick's Spanish work. Of course, all of that Spanish influence is very, very heavily rhythmically influenced. A lot of bits of various different styles in there, including, of course, flamenco. Now, for a great release from London-based pianist Sean Fife, who you might just as easily catch at Smalls or Fat Cat in New York as at the 606, the Pizza Express, or indeed Ronnie's. Here with an all-star British lineup, here's See Ya from Stepping Stones, which was released in March. not indeed. Firmly in the bop camp, and none the worse for that. That was Sia from pianist Sean Fife's new quartet release, Stepping Stones. Sean, who coincidentally also hails from Canada, trained in Manhattan but now resides in London, has put together a great band for this release on the Cellar Live label with Dave O'Higgins on sax, who incidentally again played a really great set round about this time last year, was it? At
I think
the
it was,
Area
wasn't it?
Arts
Yeah,
Centre.
that's right.
And Luke Fowler on bass, Matt Fishwick at the drums. A really swinging release this, and for the eagle-eared among you, if you thought that Sia was a contrafact based on Monk's Baya, well, you'd be right. Give yourself points. And what do points mean?
Prizes.
Not in this case, I'm afraid. No, but you can go and get yourself another cup of tea or a glass of something. But many thanks to Lisa Reedy Promotions for sending us a copy.
Tea it will have to be, I think, in this particular case. It is Jumping In. Lovely to be with you as ever. Wolfgang Hafner's got a new one coming out on ACT, one of the most in-demand drummers on the European circuit, hailing from Germany. Of course, been around for a goodly number of years. Great session player as well. And this is sort of a solo album, or billed as a solo album. And he says, I kept thinking about how to lead a band from the drums, nothing new there, I guess, in a way that gives the instrument a central role, but more about shaping the music than just displaying virtuosity, which is often the case with drummer-led bands. This way of working, I've done this way through my career, and it's key for me, he says, in Life Rhythm, his 10th album for ACT. I knew we had a few, I didn't know it was that many. Very good stuff, some of them. And so this is what he's done. And he said it harks back to his very first solo concert at Schloss Elmau in the Bavarian Alps. And he said, I remember it was an insane challenge. I thought, am I going to play a drum solo for a full hour? Well, of course I wasn't, he said, so I added a lot of percussion instruments I could use melodically, looped passages, played live, worked with reverbs and delays, a little bit like Thomas Stronen does as well, using lots of loops and electronics, and basically it was as if I was in the studio, but I was on stage. Well, this is the sort of thing he's been trying to do, in parts at least, on this album, Life Rhythm. And let's hear the track Desert Move. Yeah, good stuff. I haven't had a chance to hear all of this album yet, but they are quite different. Some of the tracks, different shapes, and as you heard there's some guests coming in as well. That one sounds almost like a sort of Niels Peter Mulver album, like Khmer or something along those lines, I think, with that wonderful trumpet sound. And he says, I have brought some unique musical personalities onto this project, along with his own idea of leading in that different way from the drums he was describing. Nils Landgren has been a good friend and a touring colleague for more than 20 years. Also appearing with me have been saxophone icon Bill Evans, Sting's guitarist Dominic Miller, Balkan beat star Chantel, and I think they were actually featured, or Chantel featured actually on that particular track, I think. The refined bassist Nicholas Fitzman, the oud virtuoso we also heard there, Thomas Constantinou. If I can get his name right, it always sounds more professional, and we heard him featured on the oud there as well, and Bruno Miller, one of the finest of German jazz guitar players, all featuring along with Wolfgang Hafner leading from the drums. It's a cracking album actually, and like I said, I've heard 2 or 3 tracks and they're all different. I've enjoyed them all in a different sort of way. 1 or 2 I thought might sound almost too commercial, and he sometimes hovers close to that, but so far, I'm giving it a good thumbs up. You might have to wait a couple of weeks because it's not actually due for general release until the end of August the 30th, 2024. So a good sneak peek if you fancy that one. Keep your eyes open.
Yeah, it put me in mind slightly of the first of his albums I bought, which was called Zooming, back in
yeah, Zooming was a whatnot.
2004, that was fusion. But a lot of his other albums are sort of, some of them are almost chamber jazz, not necessarily electronic at all. Next from me now, a great new release from a young LA-based saxophonist and composer, Nicole McCabe, on the relatively newly formed Ghost Knot label. The album is called Mosaic, and this is Force of Good. Force of Good from the LA-based alto player and composer Nicole McCabe, and the album is called Mosaic, her fourth release and the debut on the Ghost Note label. The album is essentially a quartet with Julius Rodriguez on piano and Rhodes, Logan Kane, a very much in-demand first-call bass player who's also Nicole's partner, very handy that, Tim Anguillo on the drums, and on the track we just heard, also heard trumpeter Aaron Yannick and trombonist John Hatamiya joining the party. Guitarist Jeff Parker, who also features on one track, produced the album as well. And many thanks to Rupert Burley at Dynamic Agency for sending us a copy.
Indeedy. Here's one I picked up in, actually we were away for Brussels Jazz quite recently in a wonderful second-hand place there. I've got a horrible worry now I might actually have it lurking elsewhere. However, it is Miles. I haven't played Miles for quite some time, and this is from his very last concert he gave in Avignon in France, live obviously with a group which included the likes of Kenny Garrett on alto saxon flute, Robert Irving III on keyboards, and Adam Holtzman also on keyboards, and this track is called Perfect Way.
Hi, this is Maria Schneider, and you're listening to Jumpin' In with H and Chris on Manx Radio.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. It was another one that I hadn't actually seen before. Julian Arguelles' Let It Be Told, the album's called, featuring the Frankfurt Radio Big Band and old pals like Django Bates, and playing the music of South African exiles. And that one actually featured a man who used to be around a lot in London and now is resident in Paris, and you don't hear him that much. Steve Arguelles, Julian's brother, of course, does a lot of teaching and such like and playing in the Parisian scene. Ambutha, that was called, with Julian Arguelles featured on saxophone there. And like I said, I think it had a bit of a Steve Arguelles. I beg your pardon, it was a Massey, not Ambutha, a Massey. And with Steve Arguelles on percussion. And before that, some music from the last concert that Miles gave. I think he did the Hollywood Bowl, was the very last one, but from his last concert in Avignon. And he sounded a bit off mic to start, but he got there in the end. Good stuff.
And that's about it for this week's show. But before we depart, just about time to fit in a track from Closeness 2, the new trio album from bassist and vocalist Ellen Andrea Wang. Following on from the highly regarded Closeness, recorded back in 2020, the new album, due out on Rope-a-Dope in October, maintains the same lineup of British guitarist Rob Luft, John Fate at the drums, and Ellen on the bass. Here's Humming Song. See you next week.
Be good.